Hey guys, I'm George, the nice medic gentleman, and it's time for your dose of some fragrance content. It's also time for another episode of Fragrance Duels. And in today's episode of Fragrance Duels, I'm going to compare cheap and expensive clones. And I'm going to try to answer the question, is it worth chasing after the more expensive clones, or you can happily settle for the cheaper option? So the first pair of fragrances that I'm featuring in today's video, both are cloning of a very famous, a very likable, very popular fragrance from the brand of Tom Ford, which is called Tobacco Vanille. It's a almost perfectly unisex scent that has been a very popular ever since it was released, and it has spawned many clones. Now, I'm going to show you a sort of an average priced clone which comes from the brand of Fragrance World, and it's called Vanille and Tobacco. And then I'm also including a clone that personally, from what I've tried from the Middle East, in my opinion is the best clone of Tobacco Vanille. It comes from the brand of Al Haramain, and it's called Ombre Tobacco Edition. Now, at least where I live, the price difference here is pretty much double. You can find Vanille and Tobacco for around about 20 to 25 euros for a 100 milliliter bottle size, whereas Tobacco Edition, Amber Oud Tobacco Edition usually costs somewhere between 40 to 50 euros where I live for a 100 milliliter bottle size. So basically it's double the price. So let's try to answer the question, is it actually worth spending double the money over the one from Fragrance World? Now, when it comes to their scent profile, both of them are really nicely done clones of Tobacco Vanille from Tom Ford. And to be honest, the cheaper clone here actually feels slightly closer scent-wise to the original fragrance, because to my nose, Amber Oud Tobacco Edition has always felt a little bit sweeter than the original scent, whereas Vanille and Tobacco from Fragrance World actually captures the slight bitterness of the cinnamon note in the opening of the original fragrance a little bit better. But that's probably the only area where this one is better than Tobacco Edition from Al Haramain. When it comes to the quality of the presentation, when it comes to the quality of the scent and the ingredients, when it comes to the performance, pretty much everything else, in my personal opinion, Amber Oud Tobacco Edition is the way better option. So if you want something that will get you slightly closer scent-wise to the original fragrance, that is very inexpensive while carrying an okay quality and performance, you can go with Vanille and Tobacco from the brand of Fragrance World. But if you want a really high quality clone and you don't mind a little bit of a twist, especially in the opening of the fragrance, but you want the better quality, the better performance, the better presentation, pretty much the better everything else, then you definitely have to go with the Amber Oud Tobacco Edition. And that's why in this case, in the first pair, I would say that, my opinion is that you should go for the more expensive option. For my second pair of fragrances, I went with two clones of a pretty famous niche fragrance, which is not overly expensive. It comes from the brand of Maison Margiela, and it's called By the Fireplace. And the two clones are from Fragrance World Olfactory Bonfire, and this is the more inexpensive clone, the cheaper clone that is in this pair. And then we have the one that's actually costs at least double the price of the one from Fragrance World. It's called Hypnotic Oud, and it comes from the brand of Arabiat Prestige. Now, unlike the first pair of fragrances in here, this is going to be pretty much a no contest if you factor everything apart from the price. When it comes to the scent profile and how close it feels to the original fragrance, for me the one from Arabiat Prestige is definitely a little bit closer. When it comes to the quality, this is a lot better. It has a pressurized sprayer. When it comes to the performance, again, there's pretty much no contest. So the one from Arabiat Prestige in here just overall is the way better fragrance. And I would say that if you have to choose in between those two fragrances, the only reason why you would go with something like Bonfire from Fragrance World will be if you are on a tight budget, or if you want to try the scent profile for the least amount possible of money. I don't want to bash on Bonfire, because this actually smells quite nice and it's a nice little fragrance, but definitely Hypnotic Oud is the way better fragrance. But again, keep in mind that it's a lot more expensive. But even with that in mind, I would still name the more expensive clone in here the winner in this pair. The next pair of fragrances that I've included in today's video, both are cloning a famous fragrance from the private line of YSL, which is called Baby Cat. It's a very popular fragrance and has been very popular for a while, and there are a lot of Middle Eastern clones. Now, in today's video, I've included one of the probably the first clone of Baby Cat that became hyped up, and the latest one, which is highly regarded as the best clone currently from the Middle East of Baby Cat. Now, the first one that came to the markets comes from the brand of Paris Corner, and it's called Cat. And the new one, the new kid on the block, which is again highly regarded as the best clone, comes from the brand of French Avenue, and it's called Fierté. Just like the previous couple, the price difference here is quite big actually. Nowadays you can find Cat for something like 20-25 euros, so 25, maybe, you know, worst case scenario about $30, whereas Fierté, at least here in Europe, costs between 50 and 60 euros, so we're talking about over $60. So again, the price difference here is at least double. But let's see if it's actually worth spending double the money over the price of Cat. Now, scent-wise, the one that feels a little bit closer to the original fragrance is the one from French Avenue, Fierté. I think it just captures the spirit of the original one from YSL a little bit better. It feels a little bit more powdery. It definitely feels of higher quality. It also comes really nicely presented. But at the end of the day, it's again twice as expensive, at least, as Cat. On the other hand, Cat is a really good clone of Baby Cat. On its own, this smells really nice, and performance-wise, I would say that, in my personal opinion and in my personal experience, Cat is actually a little bit better. Maybe not over total longevity, but definitely on my skin, this one projects, off my skin, this actually projects a little bit better. Now, bottle size, when it comes to Cat, it's a 75 milliliter bottle. Fierté is 80 milliliters, so it's a little bit more as a bottle size, but you know, the difference isn't huge enough, so it's not big enough to, in my opinion, to sort of make up for the difference when it comes to the actual price. And when you factor in the fact that Cat is at least as good of a performer, if not better, than Fierté, and you're only sacrificing a little bit of the scent quality and a little bit of the closeness to the original fragrance, when it comes to this particular pair, I would say the better choice here is Cat, because it's a lot less expensive, while at the same time it will give you as good, if not better, performance than Fierté. It will get you almost the same closeness to the original fragrance scent-wise, and all around I think it's the better value for money. So in this pair, I would say that the cheaper fragrance actually is the better option. And let's move on to the last pair of fragrances, both of which are cloning Louis Vuitton's Ombre Nomade. On one hand, I have the cheapest clone of Ombre Nomade that I have in my collection, which comes from the brand of Zimaya, and it's called Ilham Al Oud. And then on the other hand, I have one of the more expensive clones of Ombre Nomade that I have in my collection, and one of those really high quality clones. It comes from the Oud's collection, and it's called Royal Night. The price difference here, at least at the time that I bought the two fragrances, I paid around about 15 euros to get, maybe even less than 15 euros to get Ilham Al Oud, and I paid around about 40 euros to get Royal Night. So the price difference is around about 3 times. And although even at this price point, Royal Night is way cheaper than the original fragrance, still compared to the other clone, it's about 3 times more expensive. So let's see if it's worth it. You know, Ilham Al Oud, unfortunately, is not a good clone. It's not a great clone. It's not a good clone. I would say it's an okayish clone of Ombre Nomade. And the only reason why you would go with something like this is to try the scent profile for the least amount of money. It has good performance. The quality is okayish, but again, it's just, in my opinion, not a very good option. There are better options out there, definitely. And that's why, in my opinion, if you have to choose between this, you know, and one of the good clones of Ombre Nomade, like Royal Night, or maybe something like the Shadow from the brand of French Avenue, which costs roughly around about the same amount of money, I would definitely say go with the more expensive option, because it will give you way better quality, it will give you better performance, it will get you, a lot smelling a lot closer to the original fragrance. And again, although you're going to pay 2 to 3 times more than you'd have to pay for Ilham Al Oud, I definitely think that Royal Night in this case, or any of the other very good clones of Ombre Nomade, are just worth it, because you get to experience something a lot closer to the original fragrance when it comes to the scent, when it comes to the quality, and when it comes to the performance. So in this last fourth pair featured in today's video, again for me the winner here will be the more expensive clone, and I think it's definitely worth it spending the extra money to get this one. So guys, this was all for today's episode of a Fragrance Duels, where I compared cheap versus expensive clones, trying to answer the question, is it worth spending the extra money and getting the more costly clone? I hope that you found today's video interesting or helpful. If you did, give it a like, and I also hope that you're going to join me in my next video for your dose of some fragrance content. And until then, stay safe and bye bye.